I don't know, it looked like Aimbot to me.
I couldn't agree more. It looks like Aimbot. Guys, today we are going to be talking about Devasaurus. We have got some more footage from one of our most recent YouTube videos, which, by the way, was a new PR. What are the chances? And in this video, there are multiple instances of Aimbot snapping and locking onto enemies. If you do enjoy this video, guys, smash that thumbs up for me. Let's try and get this one to 700 likes. So, let's crack on with the video.
Soldier incoming. Station prices are adjusted.
So in our last video, we showed a demonstration and comparison of her SO14 gameplay, and it appeared that she'd maybe stopped using a rapid fire mod, or at least changed the settings of that. Something that never changed was her ability to lock onto and snap to enemies, which just isn't built-in mechanics of the game. We're going to break those clips down now. Let's go. So there's no reason for me to have a headset on here. We're only analysing for the gun mechanics. So we're watching the movement of her aim. That's all we need. We don't need sound cues. We don't need to know whether or not she's wall hacking or anything like that. At least not right now, because we're only paying attention to the aim. So let's break it down. She lined the shot up perfectly in this clip. We have slowed them down as well. Let me just turn the volume down a little bit. We've slowed them down a little bit. You see the aim jumps up. She starts ADSing and the aim jumps up from the floor. By the way, she was aiming at the floor. And it goes straight to center chest. Okay? Very small moment, but something that definitely indicates aimbot in play in that clip. But also, she was running around aiming at the floor. Now that one as well might not seem like much, but when you watch it in slow motion, you can see at the end almost like she's pressed a foot pedal or a key on her controller to actually toggle the aimbot on at that moment. Watch now. She's missing a few shots, and then what happens is the reticle, not the gun itself, not her whole screen, but just the reticle snaps to the enemy and then it pulls it across with it. Almost looks like a magnet being dragged by another magnet or a piece of metal, right? That magnetic pull just isn't what rotational aim assist or aim assist in any way does. Okay, now that one for me is quite possibly the most blatant. Now this reminds me of the one in Rebirth of Nadia, where Nadia goes into a room, slide cancels in, starts spraying the floor, and then twists around, and her aim does this sort of wavy motion until it goes bink and locks onto the torso of the enemy. Now in this case it's not the torso, but pay attention to how Devasaurus' aim is all over the place, and then all of a sudden, snap, locks onto the enemy. So we are going to be watching all of these in slow motion, just so you get a clear demonstration of the movement that's happening. Start shooting the floor, and then bink, snaps to the enemy. Even as the enemy's going down, a crosshair is still stuck to the enemy. Okay, so I want to pull that one back so you can, now I've sort of explained it to you, you'll get to see it properly. I'm going to pull it back so you can see it in full speed, actually. Yeah, so it's like wavy, snap. But slowing it down, you can see the whole motion. So she waves left and right, shoots the whole floor, and then all of a sudden, after being, you know, a bot player, it just goes snap and locks on. Is that the kind of maneuvering and motion and shooting and positioning of a decent player? No. But she does make out that she is really good. You know, she's dropping 30 plus kills in Vondel, and for some reason her aim looks like a bot until the minute something is activated and it snaps onto the enemy. Right? We'll now skip forward a little bit. See the lock there, snaps onto the enemy, and it's moving up and down in a straight line as well, which could actually be like a bone scan effect set in with the aimbot.
Soldier incoming.
Same applied here. Her aim snapped onto that enemy. It might not appear much, but if you watch it in slow motion, you can see the moment the aim snaps onto the enemy now. And it's the second she started shooting. So almost as if maybe her toggle for aimbot is shoot, not aim down sight. That was a big mistake a lot of people were making very early on when trying to, pretend to be great whilst cheating, is they would activate their aimbot by aiming down sight. So on a controller such as a PlayStation controller, you press L2 and it would lock onto an enemy, so you wouldn't be shooting, but your reticle, your crosshair, would be following the enemy, depending on the settings. What people started to realise is that if you just aim down sight, you can look freely until you shoot, and then your shooting activates the aimbot, and that would cause it to look more natural. But you do get these snaps like we've just seen in this clip here. So watch again. As it gets just to the left side of the enemy, bang, it starts, well, as she starts shooting, it snaps across to the enemy perfectly. Yeah. And guess what? It's like hitting this region again. It's like sort of between the neck and the chest. It's definitely showing a pattern now because we're seeing the same snap and we are seeing the same location in multiple clips. Now, this one's very strange for me as well because of the way in which it locks onto the guy on the left side. So she shoots the first guy, which... Listen, I mean, the guy was stood pretty much in front of her, but who's to say aimbot wasn't activated there? But we are paying attention to the way in which her aim goes to the guy on the left. Almost looks like aimbot's toggled right on and snaps onto that guy there. So we're watching again now in slow motion. Yeah, so even as she aims down sight there, her crosshair was to the right of the enemy. As she aims down sight, it centers onto the enemy. But this guy over here on the left is the one we're paying attention to. Once this guy goes down, her crosshair starts moving across to that guy anyway. She jumps down anyway. She gets that little bounce that you get, so now she's below the wall. She jumps back up, and look at that. She's in like a sort of hip fire at the moment, and she's getting hit markers on that enemy straight away. Now that to me was very bizarre, almost like she was locked on through that wall as she was doing that little bounce. And the enemy's moving like left and right here, and the aim follows until the enemy's downed, and then it becomes a problem. This one as well, like a laser beam. Watch it now. All hitting the same spot. Just look at the movement of the gun. Now listen, I understand there are certain builds on this game that completely take away about 95% of recoil that a gun can have. But that what you are seeing right there looks like the reticle is fighting against the gun's motion, which means that the reticle is locked onto the enemy. So this is something that can happen with aimbot, and it causes like a sort of stutter. So when you see like a large streamer running around with an SMG or an AR and they're shooting people and it feels like their bullets are hitting different, it's because of something like this, where if you are using a soft aimbot or even a little bit of a harsher aimbot, then your reticle is locked onto the enemy, is causing you to have that like no recoil. Because your gun's fighting against the recoil, the aimbot is fighting against the recoil of the gun. Although there are settings that allow you to have a natural recoil effect anyway, but that right there is not one of them. It looks like aimbot locking on. This here as well locks onto the enemy as they creep around a corner. Watch it as well, it's like she's centered on the enemy now, and then all of a sudden it locks. Yeah? So as she's come around that corner, she's activated her aimbot as she starts shooting, and again the crosshair, look, does not leave centre chest. Centre chest, starts shooting, and it's literally like every part of that motion was moving that way, and then all of a sudden the enemy's there and it just starts going the other way. That reticle stuck to the enemy and started moving perfectly with it. Even as the enemy falls to the floor there, the crosshair falls with it. Now, there are multiple instances like this, but I did just select a couple from the video. Obviously, I'm not here to just put a whole video up, but there are multiple instances within her recent upload, which is a 34 kill Vondel personal record. There's multiple instances like this. If you just watch the crosshair as she starts shooting, remember where her crosshair was. She started shooting at the floor. She wasn't shooting at the enemy. Her aim isn't that good. Yeah, do you understand? Her aim is actually really bad. She's shooting the floor quite a lot before she actually lasers most of these enemies, which means that as she's shooting, that's activating her aimbot, which takes over and pulls her crosshair to the enemy. So again, just to point that out, start shooting at the floor here, at the feet of the enemy, and as soon as she starts shooting, the aim pulls up to, again, like the sort of neck and shoulder region of the enemy. The enemy dives off the edge there, and again, the crosshair didn't move from this region throughout that whole ordeal. There are so many instances within Devasaurus' gameplay showing that. You see this person here, she aims down sight, starts to shoot, and it pulls the crosshair up to the enemy again. You ever wonder how these guys are lasering you through the water? You know, it's become a lot easier now since the update and whatnot, but I mean, listen, a lot of these guys are lasering you in the water 300 meters away. This is not one of those moments, but it's definitely a sign Aimbot was in play here. Now, we've even got a clip coming up now, which she doesn't get a kill, but there was just something unnatural about it. I wanted to point it out. Right? She gets that bounce. Again, her crosshair is on the floor, starts to shoot, and it pulls her crosshair up to the enemy here. And then she realises the enemy's dipped out. Because, listen, sometimes with aimbot, if an enemy gets in cover, guess what? Your aimbot ain't going to work because there's something between you and the enemy. So she dips out and decides to push in because the storm's behind her, right on the tail. Now, this is one of those moments, again, where watch where she starts shooting. Okay? We'll pay attention to where she starts shooting now and tell me her aim's great. Or tell me that something's taken over once she hits that fire button. Yeah, starts to shoot, and all of a sudden it pulls a crosshair. Where to? Not just to the enemy, but to the neck and shoulder region of the enemy. Patterns are occurring within her gameplay straight away, and it sticks to that location throughout as well. So that right there again forms a part of the pattern that we're talking about. Her aim is never really centre. She doesn't have great centering whatsoever in her gameplay. And yet, people are like, well, no, she's just good at the game. She plays for this many hours a day. She's not great at the game. I'm not saying she's bad, by the way. I think she's far above average if she was to play legitimately. But even with cheats, she is only just above average. So, like, when you are watching the patterns that occur where her aim is at the floor when she starts to shoot and then it locks onto an enemy in the same region throughout multiple clips, you mean to tell me that's just her aim? No. The way in which her aim is snapping harshly in certain situations proves that there is a third-party software running in the background, and in other instances there are just examples of just how bad of an aimer that she is. Her aim being at the floor, she's walking around with her crosshair on the floor. When she starts to shoot, her crosshair is on the floor, and then it pulls to the enemy's chest and neck region. Those right there are signs of aimbot in play. Same signs that we saw in Nadia's gameplay. It would appear that we've got a Nadia 2.0 on our hands here. She is going to deny this, but let me tell you this, there are patterns forming within her gameplay. Patterns that are not able to be formed through, in-game mechanics. These are not natural behaviours of a player within Call of Duty Warzone 2. Whether it be Resurgence or a big map, it doesn't matter. What you are seeing here are large signs of a third-party software taking over her aim and shooting for her. Well, she's pressing the shoot button, but she's not doing the aiming. It looks like aimbot in play here. Looks like we found the sort of region, which is like the neck and the shoulder area of the enemies, and it looks like it's toggled on when she starts to shoot. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. I'm looking forward to reading through them. And if you did enjoy the video, guys, smash that thumbs up. Let's try and get this one to 700 likes. And if you want to contact me about any streamer, no matter how big or small, hit me up on Twitter at BadBoy Beaman. And guys, listen, I've just had a little bit of confirmation that I've got another fight lined up. I can't say much at the moment, But any updates regarding this fight will be on the BadBoy boxing channel, which again is linked in the description below. And one last thing before we go. So guys, as you're aware, I'm partnered with Supreme CBD, who offers some absolutely amazing products. You've got these CBD cubes, which is something that I hadn't tried before. I tried multiple of their other gummies, but all it takes is like 2 or 3 of these, sometimes a little bit more, and they literally within 5 minutes calm your nerves. So a couple of minutes after I've eaten these, I will literally be sat here quite chilled out. They don't make you feel any way, but they will just calm that anxiety and that stress. So if you guys want to get your hands on some of these CBD cubes or any of their other edibles, go to the link in the description below and use code BBB40 at checkout to save 40%.